So here's an example of therapist. He shuts you out and you're on the other side of the door, right? That's a picture. You're on the other side of the door. You're knocking. You're hoping he will come out, but only getting silence in return. That's a therapist building a picture for the clients so they connect their emotional experience with the image, so they know what's happening for them. And then finally, the next image comes in. As you say, reaching for him is like jumping off a cliff. Wow, this is so difficult. Now you have this narrative and you have the picture. You can turn to the other partner and say, John, were you aware of it? That when Margaret is trying to get hold of you, try to connect, she feels like she's on the other side of the door, knocking, hoping that you will come out, but she gets only silence in return. Were you aware of it? Again, repetition and images. And when he says, yeah, I'm aware of it, and then she goes into a place where she feels like she's jumping off a cliff and there's no one there to catch her. Wow. How are you doing, John? Just to be able to hear your partner sharing so vulnerably right here and letting her know that and letting you know that when she tries to reach you, she feels like you're on the other side of the door, knocking, hoping that you will come out, but only getting silence. How does it affect you as you hear that? See, so we use images when we piggyback repetition. Remember, repetition is the first letter of risk for a reason, because that's what you have to do with all of these things that we're going to be talking about. Repetition is important. And we keep repeating it over and over again, because I guarantee you that John may not even understand what she experiences when she is on the other side of the door. A typical response would be, no, there's no doors there. She can go ask me a question. Right? So there's no acceptance, but you can get acceptance through repetition and imagery. The next thing is simple. If we start talking with compounded sentences, difficult words, run-in sentence, multiple ideas in the same sentence, for a client, they're not able to process it. So think of it, the simpler the better. I tend to speak in a 4th grade to 5th grade language. Really simple and small sentences, just a proper sentence, and that's it. So part of you just wants someone to be there for you. Very simple statement. Right? And of course, behind it, I would say, is that what it is? The simpler we can make the sentences, the better chance we have to track with our clients. The more complicated sentences are, the more times you're going to lose the client, and they will turn to you and they will say, I'm not sure, I'm not exactly understanding what you're saying. What does that mean? Were you talking about me talking to my partner, or my partner to me? Right. So there will be confusion, and that's your first question. First thing that you need to know, that when a client asks you questions about what you said, the chances are the sentences are not simple. Now, it's possible there's no specificity also, but typically the sentences are not simple. So a lot of times, to connect with another client, I would say, and to kind of get her really understand her experience, I would say, yeah, I think what you're saying, all these things that you shared with me today, you're saying, I want to be number one for my partner. I want to be number one. This is so important to me. I don't want to be number 2, 3, or 4. I want to be number one. Is that what it is? Very simple way. So there's no confusion, right? We need to kind of be tuned into that And if we start thinking that we're talking in conjectures, in difficult conjectures or difficult sentences, pull back. Especially if you check therapeutic alliance and you find out that maybe not as strong or some clients not connecting with you. If they're not connecting with you, the first thing you need to check is simple. Keep the language simple. So I kind of skipped soft and slow. These are important. Soft and slow are important parts. But I'm hoping to demonstrate to you today, when I talk about these sentences, how soft and slow I try to say things. In the session, staying slow is very difficult. Once you get used to it, it's better. But if the client starts speeding up, we have a tendency to meet client where they are, and we become faster. Especially when you ask a client to share their experience and their emotions with their other partner. This is where the softness comes, because you're doing a role model. That's where the slowness comes. You're going to do a role model to your client, so they can share it in the same way that you asking them to share it, including softness and how slow it is. I also like to be very proper in sentences, and I say, so instead of saying, yeah, I get kind of lost when you don't talk to me, I would ask them to say, can you say, John, I get kind of lost when you don't talk to me. We want to have that personal connection between partners, because what I notice a lot of times, partners don't call each other's names when they try to talk to each other. And this is the important part, for them to realize when you say, Joanne, I'm right here for you. I know in the moment when it happened, you were not there. I was not there for you. But I want to reassure that right here, right now, I'm here. And Joanne, I love you. I care about you. That makes a big difference than just saying, I love and care about you, or I wasn't there for you. I do ask that. So slow, soft is a very important part of it. So let's talk about specific. EFT is based on negative cycle, processing negative cycle, and EFT Tango. That's the two kind of big tools, right? Negative cycle we process in stage 1, so we can understand what it is. EFT Tango we do in stage 1 and stage 2 to do restructuring, right? But a lot of times the cycle and Tango needs to be conducted on specific issues that arose with partners. So partners may say, well, before we went to church, he told me that you go ahead and I'll come later. So there's a disconnect, right? So we can take that specific example and process the emotions on both sides of the partner, both sides of the relationship. But if the clients bring to you generalities, then it's much harder to work around generalities. We can navigate Tango around generalities, but it's not specific enough. So we need to find a specific trigger, specific event, specific interaction that caused that much hurt and pain in the relationship. Bring that interaction back into the present and use that specific interaction to do repeat imagery, simple, soft, slow, client's words. So here's a specific sentence. If I'm talking to a client, I say, when John comes home from work and he does not kiss you, you get worried that you're not important. All right, that's very specific. Now the clients will try to take you to different places. They might say, well, no, Jack, yeah, that's exactly what happened. But let me tell you another example. Let me tell you another situation where we didn't connect. And they try to bring many different things into the same session. We can't process multiple things in the same session. So if you found the emotional entry door for your clients where you can help them, or specific incidents where they got stuck, you need to do everything you can to stay with this incident. Unless your clients tell you, we don't want to discuss this. We have something more important. So great. Tell me more important. What happened? And then you anchor yourself into the specific incident that happened and process. If you need to process the EFT tango, or you need to talk about negative cycle, you talk about the specific incident. That's a very important part. And finally, client's words. Most of the time, if you look at my note taking during the session, I put words that clients use all over the page. I put some notes on what they say, but I don't make big notes because I'm going to transcribe the session in the next hour or something. So, but I do need the words they're using. If they're using specific words, then I will use those words. If they use word asshole, I'm going to use that word. And it's like, how's that for you? You know, using word asshole, is that something it's okay if we use this here? Or if they use F word, okay. They may use F word because that connects to them a little bit better, both of them. Right? So I will inquire and maybe used in some sentences where it's similar to what they're using it in. If they talk about frustration, I'm not going to try to change it to fear or anxiety, right? I'm going to use frustration. Whatever client gives me their words, I'm not going to try to change those words because these are words that belong to them. And we have honor to be in presence of those words. And we want to take those words and use them because they are so important to your clients. So clients' words needs to be used. Document them, write them down, and use them in the session. And they change throughout the session, throughout the different sessions, new words pop up. All right, a couple of things now. We're going to go into more of a techniques that we use, but it's still good to know that it's our language, right? Empathic reflection. So then you back away, going flat and numb. When you see Betsy's anger, her anger is way too much to handle. Right, so you reflect back, and then you say, her anger is too much to handle. This is so difficult for me. And you empathize all the way through. Right, so that's called empathic reflection. Okay, validation is it is a little bit more involved, but let's see if we can do this. Client, I just don't get it. My dad just checks out. He's in the room, but he's just ignoring the fighting that's right in front of him. He doesn't care. The therapist, yes. And that makes sense why you feel so frustrated, right? The validation is that makes sense, right? So we're accepting that this was her experience. Why you feel so frustrated when you see him not responding to the trouble, you're all in. It is so frustrating. It seems like you don't matter. And so you say he must not care. So basically, you repeat the same thing, but you validate what she's sharing by saying it makes sense what you're sharing. It makes sense of what your emotions you're experiencing. It makes sense how you see this.